When Deion Sanders suddenly vanished from Colorado's sidelines earlier this year, nobody had a clue what was going on. Fans were left guessing, rumors started flying, and the questions just wouldn't stop. But when the truth finally surfaced, it shook the entire sports world. At 55, Coach Prime found himself up against something far bigger than football, something that pushed his faith, his family, and even his future in the game to the edge. And the reality turned out to be more heartbreaking than anyone had imagined. But before we get into that, let's take it back to where it all started. Deion Sanders, known to the world as Neon Deion, Primetime, or just Prime, was born on August 9, 1967, in Fort Myers, Florida. His path to greatness started early. By 8 years old, he was already playing organized football and baseball. At North Fort Myers High, his athletic talent was impossible to ignore. He shined in football, baseball, and basketball, earning all-state honors in all three. And when he dropped over 30 points in a single basketball game, the nickname Prime Time officially stuck. One of the earliest defining moments in his college career came during the 1985 matchup between Auburn and Florida State. While Auburn dominated that game, what fans remember most is the powerful, stiff-arm Bo Jackson delivered against the young freshman Sanders. Deion later reflected on the play, admitting he was just in awe of Jackson at the time and learned from the experience rather than being embarrassed by it. That same year, Sanders was named to the Florida High School Association All-Century Team and drafted by the Kansas City Royals, but he chose to attend Florida State instead. In Tallahassee, he quickly became a star on both the football field and the baseball diamond, while also competing in track. His freshman season saw him start at cornerback for Bobby Bowden's football team and help both the baseball and track squads earn conference titles. By 1986, Sanders was batting .331 in baseball and had earned All-American honors in football. The following season, he stole 27 bases and helped FSU reach the College World Series while also securing first-team All-American honors in football. His athleticism reached legendary status when, on the same day, he played a baseball semifinal, sprinted across campus to run in the 4x100 relay, and returned just in time to compete in the baseball championship, winning titles in both sports. Sanders' showmanship also began to shine through. In 1988, he made a grand entrance to a game against Florida by stepping out of a white limo in a tuxedo, cementing his prime-time persona. Controversy soon followed when he skipped classes and exams, but still delivered a game-sealing interception in the Sugar Bowl, a moment that led to the creation of the Deion Sanders rule, requiring players to complete their semester before bowl games. Despite the drama, Sanders was unstoppable. He became a two-time first-team All-American, won the Jim Thorpe Award as the nation's best defensive back, and electrified crowds as the country's top punt returner. He was just as dominant on the track, winning conference titles in multiple sprint events. While on the football field, he recorded 14 interceptions, including 3 returned for touchdowns. Years later, Florida State retired his number 2 jersey, with Coach Bobby Bowden calling him the ultimate benchmark for athletic ability. While still at Florida State, Deion Sanders found himself living a rare dream. In 1988, the New York Yankees drafted him in the 30th round of the MLB draft, and by the summer of 1989, he was suiting up for their Double-A affiliate, the Albany Colony Yankees. At the very same time, the NFL was calling his name. At the scouting combine that February, Sanders turned heads by blazing through the 40-yard dash in just 4.27 seconds, instantly solidifying his place as one of the most sought-after prospects in football. The Atlanta Falcons wasted no time grabbing him with the 5th overall pick in the 1989 NFL Draft. Suddenly, Sanders was a professional athlete in 2 sports, and he wasted no time showing he belonged in both. While holding out of his first training camp, he stayed active on the diamond. On September 5, 1989, against a young Randy Johnson in Seattle, he went 3 for 5, including his second home run of the year. 2 days later, he inked a 4-year, $4.4 million deal with Atlanta and reported to the team. That weekend, he silenced any doubts about skipping training camp. Facing the LA Rams, Sanders returned his very first NFL punt 68 yards for a touchdown, making history as the first athlete to hit a home run in Major League Baseball and score a touchdown in the NFL in the same week. He quickly became a nightmare for quarterbacks, finishing his rookie year with 5 interceptions. By 1990, his legend was already growing. he added 3 more interceptions and another punt return touchdown for Atlanta, while securing a spot on the Yankees' opening day roster. That same season, he clashed with veteran catcher Carlton Fisk after drawing a dollar sign in the dirt at the plate and jogging to the dugout instead of running out a pop fly. Fans booed, Fisk unloaded on him, and the moment turned into a heated debate about respect for the game. Sanders, however, never shied away from controversy. That summer also brought a highly anticipated showdown: Sanders versus Bo Jackson. The game was billed as the Bo and Prime Time Show. Jackson stole the night with 3 home runs, and even Sanders acknowledged his greatness, calling him one of the best athletes ever to play. But baseball would soon test Sanders' resolve. When he demanded a $1 million salary from Yankees owner George Steinbrenner, negotiations collapsed. By September, the team placed him on waivers, claiming football was pulling him away from baseball. Sanders left the Yankees with a .171 batting average over 2 seasons, but reminded everyone that baseball was a game no one ever truly masters. Meanwhile, Sanders flourished in football. In 1990, he played all 16 games for the Falcons, recording 3 interceptions, 2 returned for touchdowns, along with another punt return score. In 1991, opportunity knocked again. This time, it was the Atlanta Braves who signed him, keeping both of his professional careers in the same city. He still struggled at the plate, hitting just .191, but on July 31st, he delivered a clutch 3-run homer to spark a Braves comeback. By the next day, he was back with the Falcons. That fall, Atlanta shocked the league with a 10-6 record under head coach Jerry Glanville. The Falcons roster was stacked with talent and swagger. Andre Rison, Brian Jordan, Tim McKyer, Scott Case, Chris Miller, and even a young Brett Favre. With MC Hammer turning up on the sidelines, the Falcons became a cultural phenomenon. Their playoff run ended in Washington, but Sanders earned his first Pro Bowl nod. In 1992, Sanders continued to shine individually, leading the NFL in kickoff return yards, yards per return, and touchdowns, even though the Falcons slumped to 6-10. Baseball, however, finally gave him his breakthrough. That year with the Braves, he hit .304, stole 26 bases, and led the National League with 14 triples in just 97 games. When the Braves made the postseason, he rejoined them as promised, despite drawing fines from the Falcons. It was then that Sanders tried to do the impossible: play both sports in a single day. After a Dolphins game in Miami, he flew straight to Pittsburgh to join the Braves against the Pirates. But Braves manager Bobby Cox decided not to use him. Critics pounced, most notably broadcaster Tim McCarver, who accused Sanders of dividing his loyalties. When the Braves later clinched a World Series spot, Sanders confronted McCarver in the locker room, drenching him with water on live television. On the biggest stage, Sanders showed his resilience. Despite playing with a broken bone in his foot, he batted .533 in the 1992 World Series, collecting 8 hits, 2 doubles, and 4 runs. Though the Braves ultimately fell to the Toronto Blue Jays in 6 games, Sanders had proved what many thought was impossible: he could excel at the highest level in 2 sports at the same time. By 1993, questions still swirled around Deion Sanders and his choice to play 2 professional sports. The year before had proven he was more than capable of being a full-time baseball player, yet he always compared football to his wife and baseball to his mistress. So he kept doing both. That summer, while with the Braves, a respiratory infection cut his baseball season short. On the football field, however, Sanders had his best year yet with the Falcons. Despite playing just 11 games, he led the league with 7 interceptions and earned his 3rd straight Pro Bowl nod. But his time in Atlanta was coming to a crossroads. After back-to-back losing seasons under coach Jerry Glanville, Sanders doubted the Falcons' future. Even with owner Rankin Smith promising to match any offer to keep him, Sanders waited. He wanted to see what else was out there. Meanwhile, in baseball, he was traded from the Braves to the Reds during the 1994 season. He was hitting well, but when the MLB strike shut everything down, it gave him space to focus on where he would play football next. As the NFL season approached, his options narrowed to New Orleans, Miami, San Francisco, and Atlanta. The Falcons were never a real contender, and the Saints weren't serious playoff threats. Miami backed away after reworking Dan Marino's contract. That left the 49ers. They offered Sanders just a 1-year deal worth $1.2 million, but what they lacked in money, they made up for in opportunity. San Francisco was desperate to get back to the Super Bowl. After being knocked out by Dallas in back-to-back NFC championship games, they loaded up in free agency. Alongside Sanders, they brought in standouts like Gary Plummer, Ken Norton Jr., Charles Mann, Ricky Jackson, Tim Harris, and Richard Dent. The gamble worked. The Niners stormed through the season with a 13-3 record, and Sanders played at an elite level once again. In 14 games, he had 6 interceptions, returned 3 for touchdowns, and led the league with 303 interception return yards. One of those interceptions came in Atlanta against his old team. Fans booed. Andre Rison confronted him, but Sanders responded with a 93-yard touchdown return, staring down the Falcons sideline as he ran past. Despite his flashy persona, teammates quickly realized there was substance behind the style. Gary Plummer noted that when Sanders stood outside the defensive huddle, it wasn't arrogance, it was strategy. He studied offenses, read signals, and stayed locked in. Safety. Tim McDonald, who even restructured his contract to help bring Sanders aboard, praised him as a game changer who combined skill, charisma, and business-like focus on the field. That 49ers team finally broke through Dallas, beating them in the NFC Championship before crushing San Diego in Super Bowl 29. Sanders sealed the title with a clutch interception and was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year. But despite the success, he wouldn't return to San Francisco the next season. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys made sure of that. Not wanting to face Sanders again, Jones offered a 7-year, $35 million contract, making Sanders the highest-paid defensive player in the league. The deal included a clever workaround, league minimum salary paired with a massive $13 million signing bonus. It worked so well that the NFL quickly created the Deion Sanders rule, ensuring future signing bonuses counted against the cap. In his memoir, Sanders later revealed the Raiders actually offered him more money, but the chance to win another championship and even line up as a receiver made Dallas irresistible. What surprised many, though, was how his departure from San Francisco actually unfolded. He explained that he was never even offered a contract to return. He only realized he was gone when he saw another player wearing his number 21 jersey during a Giants game broadcast. Some speculated that Jerry Rice's contract demands complicated matters, but Sanders brushed that aside. He admitted he always wanted to be the highest paid player, not second best. And, as he pointed out, even if Rice's deal required him to stay near the top, keeping Sanders would have raised his pay too. By that point, it was obvious. Sanders wasn't in it just for the paycheck. He was after respect, a lasting legacy, and those championship rings. And he wasn't about to settle for anything less. His 1995 season had no shortage of twists. On the baseball side, he got traded from the Cincinnati Reds to the San Francisco Giants. A bit ironic since he had just left the Bay Area to join the Dallas Cowboys in football. Still, he held his own in San Francisco, finishing the year with a .268 batting average. Football, however, told a different story. Despite signing a massive deal with the Cowboys, Sanders missed the first half of the NFL season after undergoing arthroscopic surgery. He finally returned in Week 9 against Atlanta, where Dallas defeated the Falcons 28-13. His numbers that year were modest, with just 2 interceptions, but his impact on the team was undeniable. After playoff wins over the Eagles and Packers, Dallas reached Super Bowl 30 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. On the Cowboys' opening drive, Sanders lined up as a receiver and hauled in a 47-yard pass that set up the game's first score. Dallas went on to win 27-17, giving him his second straight championship. Instead of balancing 2 sports in 1996, Sanders chose to focus on football. The decision paid off. Not only did he shine at cornerback, but he also started 8 games as a wide receiver, becoming the first true two-way player in the NFL since Chuck Bednarik in 1962. That season, he intercepted 2 passes while also catching 36 receptions for 475 yards and a touchdown. His efforts earned him another Pro Bowl appearance and a first-team All-Pro selection. In 1997, Sanders returned to baseball, signing with the Reds once again. He stole 56 bases in 115 games before reporting back to Dallas, where he picked off 3 passes and scored on a punt return. The accolades continued with another Pro Bowl and All-Pro nod. By the end of that year, Sanders had accomplished feats most athletes only dream of. He had played in a World Series, won 2 Super Bowls, and even released a rap album. On the surface, he seemed untouchable. Behind closed doors, however, his life was unraveling. His marriage to Carolyn was falling apart, and the pain left him so hopeless that in late 1997, he attempted to take his own life by driving his car off a 30 to 40-foot drop at nearly 70 miles per hour. Incredibly, he walked away without serious injury. Sanders later admitted he felt completely empty despite all his success. That moment marked a turning point. With guidance from his agent, Eugene Parker, Sanders connected with Bishop T.D. Jakes of the Potter's House in Dallas. Through faith and a renewed sense of purpose, he found the strength to rebuild his life. By 1998, Sanders was back on the field and playing at an elite level. He intercepted 5 passes, returned 1 for a touchdown, and added 2 more scores on punt returns. The performance earned him yet another Pro Bowl and All-Pro selection. Even in 1999, when injuries slowed him down, he still managed 3 interceptions and another punt return touchdown, securing his 8th Pro Bowl. But while Sanders excelled individually, the Cowboys' playoff success faded. After a wild card win in 1996, Dallas never advanced again during his tenure. In June 2000, the Cowboys released him to clear salary cap space. Just days later, Washington Redskins owner Dan Snyder signed Sanders to a blockbuster 7-year, $56 million contract. Snyder had visions of immediate success, also bringing in stars like Bruce Smith and Mark Carrier. But the gamble backfired. Washington started strong at 6-2, but collapsed, finishing 8-8 and missing the postseason. Sanders still recorded 4 interceptions, but after just 1 year in Washington, he retired from the NFL before the 2001 season began. After retiring from football, Deion Sanders gave baseball one last shot in 2001. He signed with the Cincinnati Reds but struggled, hitting just .173 in 29 games before being released. Soon after, he joined the Toronto Blue Jays minor league system and played in Syracuse, where he managed a solid .252 batting average. Still, he knew it was time to walk away from the sport for good. In true primetime fashion, his final game ended with a home run and an RBI single. By 2002, Sanders was back in the spotlight, this time on television as part of CBS's NFL pregame show. That same year, the Redskins waived him from their reserve/retired list so he could potentially join the Raiders for the playoffs. But the waiver process complicated things, and while multiple teams wanted him, league rules prevented him from being activated in time. He chose to remain retired. In 2004, CBS cut his salary, and around the same time, Ray Lewis and Corey Fuller urged him to join the Baltimore Ravens. Seeing it as a sign, Sanders returned to the NFL after 3 years away. He quickly proved he still had it, grabbing an interception against Buffalo and returning it for his 9th career touchdown, placing him second on the league's all-time list. He finished the season with 3 interceptions, then added 2 more in 2005. When the Ravens missed the playoffs again, he officially retired from football. Sanders' career had been nothing short of legendary. 2 Super Bowl titles, 8 Pro Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pro selections, a Defensive Player of the Year award, a spot on the 1990s All-Decade team, and recognition as part of the NFL's 100th anniversary all-time team. His impact was immortalized with a place in the Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor. Unlike many retired athletes who fade into the background, Sanders stayed front and center. He became a fixture on NFL Network and even landed his own reality show in 2008, Dayan and Pilar, Primetime Love, though it lasted just 1 season. In 2011, he reached the pinnacle of recognition when he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, leaving a statement that summed him up perfectly. People paid to see him win or lose, but either way, they came to watch. In 2012, he ventured into education by founding Prime Prep Academy in Texas, a K-12 charter school that promised big things but quickly collapsed under mismanagement, financial issues, and scandals. The school shut down in 2015, leaving behind stories of students whose academic futures were derailed. Sanders himself faced accusations of misconduct, including physical altercations with school officials, which further tarnished the project. Afterward, he shifted focus to coaching at the high school level before landing a headline-making role in 2020 as head coach at Jackson State University. From the start, he embraced the name Coach Prime, declaring it the only title he would answer to. His time at JSU was full of energy and ambition, but it also came with personal challenges. In 2021, he underwent surgery on his foot that led to life-threatening complications. He battled blood clots and compartment syndrome, endured 8 surgeries in 3 weeks, and ultimately lost 2 toes to save his leg. Through it all, he leaned on his faith, saying he was simply thankful to still be alive. By 2022, he had recovered and returned stronger, leading Jackson State to multiple championships while using his influence to bring national attention to HBCU athletics. But his journey there ended after just 3 seasons. In December 2022, Sanders announced he was leaving for a new challenge with the Colorado Buffaloes. His sons, Shiloh and Shadur, along with star recruit Travis Hunter, followed him to Boulder. The move sparked heated debate. Critics accused him of abandoning the HBCU mission he had once championed, calling him a sellout. Supporters, however, praised the leap, pointing out he had given up much of his modest JSU salary to improve facilities and was now securing a well-deserved contract, $29.5 million over 5 years at Colorado. But Coach Prime's absence from Colorado in the 2025 offseason turned into one of the biggest mysteries in college football. Fans were left guessing, and nobody really knew what was going on until his son, Deion Jr., dropped a hint that the truth would come out soon. Then in July, Sanders popped back up in Boulder, letting everyone know on Twitter that he was feeling great and ready to jump back into preseason practices. The story behind that absence turned out to be life-changing. In May 2025, during a routine scan for his ongoing blood clot issues, doctors discovered a high-grade tumor in his bladder. The news was devastating, an aggressive form of bladder cancer. His urologist, Dr. Janet Kucrea from the University of Colorado, explained that it was a high-risk cancer, but she was confident surgery could help. Sanders underwent a major operation where surgeons removed his bladder and built a new one using part of his small intestine. The procedure was successful and his medical team declared him cancer-free. But the road to that victory wasn't easy. In a raw video recorded back in May, Sanders revealed the emotional toll. He admitted he had made a will, preparing for the possibility that he wouldn't survive. It was a moment of vulnerability that showed just how heavy the battle had been. Even through the fear, though, he never doubted his return to coaching. Retirement, he said, was never an option. Coming out of surgery, Sanders acknowledged his life had changed forever. He was open about the adjustments, even joking that he now relied on adult diapers. His honesty, mixed with humor, reflected a man who wasn't hiding from the reality of his situation. He spoke about being chosen to carry this burden so he could share his experience with the world, believing it was a story others could relate to. Through it all, Sanders' faith stayed at the center. He described hearing the word cancer as life-altering, but not a life sentence. With conviction, he declared that God had carried him through it, and that belief fueled his determination to keep coaching. Despite rumors about him stepping down, Sanders made it clear he was staying put. Now, in his 3rd season with Colorado, he's preparing for what feels like the next phase of his journey. Last year's 9-4 record was a huge step forward, but this time the Buffaloes are aiming to be tougher in the trenches, building a more balanced offense and a stronger line of scrimmage presence. To make it happen, Sanders has assembled a coaching staff unlike any other in college football, featuring fellow Hall of Famers Warren Sapp and Marshall Faulk alongside him. The roster looks different too. His sons, Shadur and Shiloh, have moved on to chase their NFL dreams. Shadur with the Cleveland Browns and Shiloh signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Travis Hunter, the 2024 Heisman winner, is also gone, along with several key pieces of last season's explosive but inconsistent offense. Despite the changes, Sanders seems more driven than ever. He insists he's a better man now than before the diagnosis, and in his words, that makes him a better coach. The question hovering over Boulder now is simple. Will this new version of Coach Prime lead to an even better Buffaloes team in 2025?